It wasn't marked on most maps, and the people who lived near it had long stopped trying to name it anything else. The water was beautiful, crystal clear, always flowing gently, never flooding, never drying. Birds drank from it. Trees leaned over it like old friends. But no one crossed it. Because the river only flowed one way. And it only took. The legend began long before anyone in the village could remember. They said a woman named Nina had once lived near its banks, the daughter of a fisherman, known for her kindness, her music, and a laughter that made even the grumpiest elders smile. One evening, her younger brother wandered too close to the river and fell in. Nina dove in after him, desperate to save him. Neither of them ever came back, their bodies were never found. Only the sound of her singing faint and mournful echoing across the water on some nights. Since then, the village made rules. Never approach the river after dark. Never throw anything in. Never speak your full name near its banks. And above all, never try to cross it. For generations, the warnings were enough. Until one summer, when a boy named Lien came to the village. He was 17, restless and sharp-eyed. His mother had grown up there but moved away long ago. After her sudden death, he was sent to live with his grandmother in the quiet, careful village. And he hated it. He didn't believe in old rules or whispered stories. Ghosts weren't real. Curses were for people who had nothing better to believe in. So when the kids in town dared him to touch the river, not even to swim, just touch, he did it without blinking. He stepped to the edge, knelt down, and dipped his hand in. The water was cold. Too cold for a summer day, and for a second, it held him. Like a grip beneath the surface. He yanked his hand back and laughed, pretending he wasn't shaken, but something had changed. That night, he dreamed of a girl standing in the middle of the river, hair floating around her, skin pale as frost. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Only silence. When he woke up, his hand was still cold. And damp. Over the next days, he heard things. Water running when none was near. Music, a single, distant melody, from somewhere he couldn't find. And always, the urge to return to the river. His grandmother warned him, "She doesn't forget, Lien," she whispered, staring past him. The river remembers every name, every soul, every touch. But by then, he was already hearing the voice in his dreams, "Come back." He returned at dusk. The sky was streaked in fire. Mist hovered above the water, and she was there again, standing just beneath the surface. This time, she spoke. "You called me." Lien wanted to run, but he couldn't. His feet were rooted. His body didn't listen. He whispered, "Who are you?" A promise. A price. A name spoken too loudly in a place that never forgets. Then he understood. His full name. He'd said it by the river when the kids dared him. He'd invited it. "What do you want?" She tilted her head. "Nothing more than what you gave me." He took a step back. And the water surged forward just enough to cover his feet. Cold. Pulling. "Alive!" Lien screamed, but no one heard. The next morning, the villagers found footprints leading to the riverbank. And nothing else. His grandmother said nothing. She simply lit a candle and placed it at her doorstep like all families did when the river took someone. A quiet ritual. Not to call them back, but to let them go. Because the taking river never gives back. Not bodies, not souls. Not even echoes. Only silence. For weeks after Lien vanished, the village returned to its quiet rhythm. No one spoke his name. That was how it had always been. To speak a name was to start a current. And everyone knew, once the river took you, it was over. The best you could do was light your candle and pray it never turned its gaze on you next. But something was different now. The water had changed. It no longer flowed with its usual grace. It paused. Some nights it hissed like it was boiling. Children began waking from nightmares soaked in sweat, whispering about a boy in the trees, standing just out of reach, eyes as black as river stones. And then, the music came back. It started as a hum. Low and ancient. Like a lullaby song from beneath the earth. The older villagers recognized it immediately, Nina's song. The same one she used to play by the river before it took her. But now, it sounded wrong. Twisted. Like something was forcing it out of the throat of something that didn't know how to feel. Then, the first candle went out. Mora, the village seamstress, found it dark the morning after her dream, a dream in which Lien stood at the foot of her bed, dripping wet, and whispered, "It's not what they told you." She was found dead 3 days later. Drowned. In her own bathtub. Though the water was only ankle deep. Others began reporting the same dream. Lien, standing silent. Sometimes in the woods. Sometimes inside their homes. Never speaking, except for one line that chilled them all. "She didn't want to take me. She had to." The elders met in secret. Whispers filled the candlelit room, of old pacts, broken promises, and a name spoken too loudly. Not Lien's. Nina's. Because the truth was, Nina wasn't just a girl who vanished. She was the river's first offering. Her family had been chosen generations ago, born to a bloodline tied to the water. The Mseran line. Her father had broken the cycle once, refusing to give a child when the river came calling. And so it took her brother. And when she dove in after him, she made a deal. "Let him go. Take me instead." But the river didn't just want a body. It wanted a keeper. A voice. A vessel to sing its grief forever. And now, Nina was tired. She couldn't hold it back anymore. Lien wasn't taken by force, not entirely. He was invited. He was called. The river had grown hungry. It wanted more than offerings now. It wanted revenge. And through Lien, it had learned to speak. The villagers began hearing the melody in mirrors. Water refused to stay still in basins. A child was nearly pulled into a well. The river was no longer waiting at the edge of the forest. It was coming in. One night, as the fog rolled in thick and choked the moonlight, Lien's grandmother stood at the banks. She held 2 candles, one for her daughter, Lien's mother, and one for the boy the river had claimed. But she didn't light them. Instead, she spoke. Loud and clear. "Nina, if you can hear me. I remember you." The water stirred. The forest hushed. And the song stopped. She whispered again. "I forgive your father. I forgive what he did. But you can let go now. Let the boy go." And for the first time in 100 years, the river fell silent. The next morning, the river was still. Glassy. Calm. And lying at its edge, curled in the reeds like a child asleep, was Lien. Alive. Pale. Eyes wide. But breathing. He never spoke of what he saw beneath the water. Never told what it felt like to be claimed and kept. Only that it was not Nina who held him there. It was something older. Something she had fought to contain. And that now, it was free. The villagers lit candles for her that night, not out of fear, but gratitude. And the river, for a time, returned to silence. But still, no one speaks their full name by the water. Because it remembers. And sometimes, silence is not peace. It is waiting. 15 years had passed since Lien was returned. He never left the village. He built a quiet life, mended fences, grew herbs, walked with a limp from something he never spoke of. His eyes were older than his face, like he'd seen a world the rest of them never would. When children asked him what happened in the river, he smiled gently, and said, "I was borrowed." Over time, the village began to forget. The warning softened. The song stopped. A new generation grew up without the fear in their bones. They laughed by the banks, skipped stones, spoke their names like they'd never mattered. Until the fog returned. Not like the old mist, thin and morning-born. This fog moved like thought, thick and breathing. It came with whispers, voices no one could place. And the sound of footsteps in the water, even when the river stood still. Lian felt it first. He woke one night gasping, water in his lungs, soaked though his bed was dry. He could hear her again, Nina. But she wasn't singing. She was weeping. Something had gone wrong. That same week, children began sleepwalking. Always toward the river. Always at night. One girl, Maren, was found standing ankle-deep in the current, eyes wide, murmuring something that froze her mother's heart. "They are walking back." Yen tried to warn the elders. "It's not Nina," he said. "She held them back. But she's gone now. What she bound has teeth." They didn't listen. So he went alone, to the old part of the forest, where even the trees leaned away. To the place where he'd first seen her. The same place where now, in the still water, stood a figure. But it wasn't Elira. It was a boy. No older than 13. Clothes torn. Skin pale. And behind him, dozens more. Men. Women. Children. All standing silently beneath the surface, eyes open. Watching. The river had become a door. And now, it was opening. Yen knew then, the river never took them. It kept them. Memories. Regrets. Promises. All soaked into the current like ink. The souls hadn't been devoured, they had been stored. And the bindings, whatever magic had once held them, were unraveling. One by one. That night, the dead returned to the village. They didn't scream. They didn't knock. They simply walked. Mothers saw daughters they had buried. Sons saw fathers who had drowned long ago. At first, there was joy, desperate embraces, tears, disbelief. Until the river's prize revealed itself. These weren't loved ones. They were shells. Voices like hollow wind. Cold skin. Empty smiles. Echoes, and they were hungry. One by one, they began to pull others into the water. Not by force, but by memory. By guilt. By longing. A dead sister's voice. A mother's lullaby. A husband's favorite song. Until they followed willingly, into the deep. Lian stood in the square, the last candle flickering at his feet. The village around him was vanishing, dragged backward into time and grief and stillness. And he knew what had to be done. He took the candle, his own, and walked to the river. The figures parted as he came, recognizing the one who had escaped. He stepped in. Not as a sacrifice. But as a seal. One more story for the river to keep. One last soul to bind the door shut again. And when the sun rose, the river was still. The fog lifted. And the village slept. Not one person remembered what had happened. Not the night before. Not Lian. Not the stories. Only that they lit candles, every year, for reasons no one could explain. And when children asked why no one played by the river anymore, their parents simply said, "Because it remembers."